So there is one reality, unopposed, unobstructed, unveiled. This reality is the transparency that at this very moment perceives this perception. It's the stillness, the absence, the silence, the presence. The absolute.
Do you have a second here?
There is no division, no separation. In fact, in truth, your experience is, in its essence, the wholeness of being. But given you believe that you are a separate self, you believe that you are Joe, John, Bill, Mary, Betty, you believe you are somebody, you perceive separation and you experience separation, which is unhappy because within separation there is the sense of lack, incompleteness, insufficiency, and the striving for wholeness, the striving for the happiness, for the freedom that at the core of your being you know is real. But at the mind level, which is not the core of your being, you imagine the freedom and the happiness to reside in experiences, in repeating experiences, in seeking situations, relationships, experiences that you imagine will fulfill you. While deep down at the core of your being, you know that is not the path. You still follow the mind, you still follow the thoughts and the feelings, and you pursue that is causeless. You pursue the innate freedom and happiness of your being into situations, experiences, and objects. within your pursuit, you are haunted by the me impression, by the belief and feeling that you are somebody, that you are a person. And you keep referring everything you experience to this person. So your experiences are personal, and all the situations you experience are personal. As a result of referring them to a person that you feel and believe you are. And like walking in a forest where there is no path, when you walk back and forth, eventually there is a path. And in your body-mind, similarly, there are thought habits and addictions within the body, thought and bodily feelings that repeat themselves over and over for you. And these pathways, these patterns within the mentation and within the sensation, these pathways within the mind and the body, within thought and sensation, is what we refer to in the teaching as the separate self. These pathways are the separate self. Whenever you act out of this me reaction, whenever you perceive that whatever is happening is personal, at that moment, that is the personal self. Because whenever you look, in fact, for the personal self, you do not find such a thing as a real personal self. But you will find I thoughts, me thoughts, and of course the me feeling, and the emotions. In order for the happiness and freedom, the love and the beauty of your true nature to shine, you need to go to the formless source, which this very moment is perceiving this perception. You need to turn your attention to the transparency of being and realize that this very transparency, this invisible beingness, is real, is formless, and is what we refer to as I, the true self, that has no form and no shape, that is unopposed. And completely free. Hello, Paul. I got your question. By the way, if you are watching on YouTube, you can also write your question in the chat box, which I do not see, but Tara will bring the question over to me. So I will take this opportunity that I received this question from Paul Sunderland. It says, hi Magdi, I find myself with a dilemma. Someone close to me is displaying behavior which I know is not good for them. I don't know whether to intervene or let things run their course. Paul.
Hi, Magdi. It's me.
Oh, hello, Paul. Yes, I just got your question.
Thank you.
Yes. So, if you are perceiving somebody close to you that is on a course, behaving in a way, or on a course that, as you say, is not good. If it's not good for them, it's not good. Period. In your view, and if it is possible for you to share with them your perception, what you perceive, then I would do so. I would find an opportunity, maybe even create an opportunity where you could share with them your view, being careful to also remain open to not knowing. Because sometimes we have a view, but it may be a narrow, not a narrow, but it may come from a certain place that doesn't know the whole situation, the whole picture. So in sharing your view, you are sort of you expressing it with clarity, but you're also internally tentative. You're internally open, listening to, open to the possibility that you may not have the entire picture. So you may your point of view maybe you may change your point of view as you are in sharing it with your friend. I wouldn't let things run their course if I perceive things, if I perceive a friend or somebody who's close enough to me that is moving in a direction that I feel is wrong or mistaken. But at the same time, there are limitations within your life. You're not always available, or they may not always be available, though the circumstances may not arise where you can share with them your point of view. Of course, I'm assuming that they are open to this sort of conversation.
Well, that's part of the dilemma, really, that the person that in question isn't really that open, not as open as but when I ask myself the question, if they saw me on the wrong path, would I want them to mention it? Then the answer is definitely yes. And the reason I bring up the question is because I have this whole dilemma about we don't control anything, and we're not the doer. So would me addressing it be the right thing or the wrong thing? It's do you understand what I mean?
It depends where you're coming from. If you're coming from a place that is that doesn't have any personal agenda, that is sort of restful and free, that is not perceiving any, you don't have a personal mission outside of, a loving concern, a loving
it's purely out of care and love for the person. And to be honest, I wish I wasn't in this position, because I'd rather not have the responsibility of, or the burden on my shoulders of having to, perceive this behavior and know it's wrong, and therefore address it. Because to be honest, I'm not really that good at that sort of thing. I don't really like that sort of thing, but maybe that it's come up because we as life goes on, I think the things that I feel the things that I shy away from have come up to challenge me more recently.
Yes, I understand. It's also important to understand, Paul, that people go through painful situations, difficult situations, they make mistakes, they go down the wrong direction, and of course they suffer the consequences of that is also part of the path. It's important to understand that as well. So you share, if possible, with your friend in whatever way you can, and then you let it go. So if they get what they get out of you, maybe nothing, maybe they get all what you have to say, and they listen to you and become convinced, or they just sort of not really take at heart what you are saying, and then they continue in the path that gets narrower and narrower, harder and harder, tighter and tighter. And that's part of the path. There is a learning that there is a teaching in difficult situations, in painful situations, in situations of suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you've gone through situations like that. I know I have, and I don't know anybody who hasn't. But so
yeah, I think from what you've said, I think before I spoke to you, I think I felt a sort of burden of responsibility on my shoulders, which isn't my responsibility really, is it? It's not my burden. All I can do is what I do. I feel it's right in my heart to say something to them, because that's if the situation got a lot worse, I'd feel really bad if I hadn't said something to them. So really a matter of saying it in as loving a way as I can, as caring a way as I can, in as non-confrontational way as I can, and then it's up to them, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In terms of responsibility, Paul, responsibility is at that very moment what is the proper response. So if thought arises to you that, oh gee, this person is moving the wrong direction, is making the wrong choices, and at that moment the thought arises to you to address that, to share what you perceive with your friend. And so the responsibility is responding to that thought that's arising to you. So you examine the thought, and the thought it's very important that you examine the thought. So it's not a personal thought that you want this person to go in that direction because it's better for you, or because it makes you feel better, or because you feel, oh, now you're a savior, or whatever. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just sort of saying that in general. So you examine and you find that it's really out of a genuine loving concern. And as we shared, you also need to understand that people's path is what it is. So you share with them, which is then there would be the responsibility would be to respond to what is arising for you. The thought arises for you. You examine it. It seems to be genuine, loving thought, loving concern, and then you act. You respond. The respond is to say, hey, can we have a chat? Are you available for a half hour? Let's have a cup of tea and chat. It's something that I want to share with you, and see how they respond. They may respond, whichever way they respond. You may find yourself rejected, or you may find yourself sharing with them, what your concern is. But your concern is just your concern. You're not right. You're not correct. You just have a perception and a concern, and you express it in a loving way. But be careful that you're not correct. You don't have this I'm right. You've got to do this or else. You're just sharing. You're just sharing what you perceive, what you feel. If I have raised my two children this way, I've been with them. That way, like sharing with them when I saw them moving in the direction that I felt was more like a more sort of bumpy path, and I would share with them that, hey, listen, I think that this direction, these are the possibilities. This is what my experience has been. This is what I perceive. But I was always very careful that within myself that I was just expressing my experience, but it does not mean that is what may happen for them. This may be the best path for them, is to go down that bumpy road. I don't know. I actually don't know. But although I do not know that if that path is, that bumpy path is quotes unquote good or bad for them, I still shared with them that was my experience, and then I let it go, because deep down in my heart, I really don't know what's good and bad in terms of the path, because the bumpy path may bring you to awakening, and sometimes a very smooth, very easy, open path may not lead you to awakening. It might lead you to a sort of numb sleep or a certain comfort where you just sort of not really contemplating the deeper contemplation of truth. So that's what I want to share with you.
Yeah, thank you. That is just so good. The way you've put that, it's really, really helped me. The area that the person that is close to me has a problem in is the same area that I've had a problem in the past. And it was a bumpy road for me, and it's led me here. So before I spoke to you, it was before I spoke to you, I was sort of probably, I don't know, probably taking things a little bit too much on myself, from myself, because of what I've been through. But it's led me here. So how do I know that the path they're on lead them somewhere much better eventually?
I understand.
So it's not like an intervention on my part. It's just because that's the way I felt. I felt like I had to intervene and act, and but what you're saying is, how do I know that the path they're on isn't going to lead somewhere better than it better than ever.
We don't know,
So,
right?
Yes,
we don't know.
it's not. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
All I can do is express my
Right, because
concern.
you're coming from love, and so you're expressing the love, but of course you don't know. We don't know, but we still express. Hey,
Yeah, that is just good. I really love what you've said, and it's really helped me. Thank you so much.
Okay, Paul.
Thanks, Dee.
Yes, you're welcome.
Magdi?
Yes, hello, Zoe.
Hi. I just had curiosity. Something came up the other day about sadness, and I'm just wondering if you experience sadness. In Sahaja Samadhi, there's the bliss of the self, but I have heard other teachers say there's like this universal sadness and like an impersonal sadness, and I was curious about that. And then also this metaphor you gave of walking in the forest and the grooves. I was re-listening to the satsang on healing old wounds, and then you talked about living lightly, and I would love for you to say more about that. There was something that struck me about, we pay attention to our inner thoughts, and that keeps the grooves going as well. Perhaps even maybe that's the whole thing. It's like we're feeding this inner talk. So yeah, anything you could say about that?
What was your first question, Zoe?
Oh, the first one was about sadness. Do you experience?
Yes.
Sadness?
Okay. There is a sweet sadness. It feels like love, like maybe a nuance of love. Maybe this is where the divine and the human meet. Which is very different from regret. In a way, it's a sort of a recollection of the love that sometimes the love we shared. And consciousness is complete transparency. And so there is an experience of the sorrow. You could say the worldly sorrow, the sorrow of humanity. But that is, it's sort of comes through. It's sort of, it doesn't have suffering in it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like maybe one could say like a worldly or universal empathy. And it is recognized that the sorrow of humanity, the human sorrow, is as a result of not knowing oneself, mistaking oneself, mistaking the self with the body-mind. And in spite of this recognition, like Jesus came among the Jews and the Pharisees, the Phoenicians, he came among them. He suffered. He suffered the beating and the punishment and the yelling and the anger and the crucifixion. But there was no suffering. There is of course, a less visual sort of experience of the human sorrow. That is it's recognized. It's recognized. Because there is a recognition of the human situation, of the situation of the identification and the forgetfulness of our true nature. And the consequences of that, how we are living that. We're living that in our personal relationships, in our life, in almost daily. And although the self is beyond all that, although the self is not a state, for the sage that is manifesting, meaning the unmanifest that is manifesting, in a way, there is that resonance with the human situation. But the key thing to understand is that there is no suffering.
Yes.
There is no sufferer. But there is a sweet sadness and sweet empathy. But there isn't any alarm, you see. There's no alarm. Because there is a deep knowingness that is unshakable, that that reality, what I truly am, that cannot suffer, that does not suffer. That's a foreign language to it. And yet here we are. Walking together, talking together, playing together. Sometimes inadvertently hurting each other's feelings. I don't know. It's possible.
Yeah, thank you. That makes that just provides a lot of clarity. It's like the bliss of the self, and yet it's totally appropriate to the situation, like that connection that you just spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you could say that the self is like the black hole. In the black hole, all the fields come and dissolve in it.
Yeah.
So it experiences all of that, but everything comes and dissolves in it. I like to sort of think of consciousness as a transparent space, and everything that arises, comes to it to dissolve in it. So in a way, you could say that the human sorrow comes to find its dissolution in the self. But it does come to the self. The self perceives it, but it dissolves it as it perceives it unintentionally, just by being, just by its very essence. What was your second question, Zoe?
Okay, so the other one had to do with that metaphor you gave of the walking back and forth in a forest and how it leaves grooves, and then just the inner chatter of the mind that you spoke about in the healing old wounds satsang.
Mm-hmm.
And to be particularly, I think, aware of how we speak to ourselves, how we keep that
Yes.
alive, and then, just living lightly. So any
Yes.
you have about that?
You will find in your life, although you understand that I am the self, I am consciousness, you will still find that in your life the I thought and the me feeling will arise. The thought about me and him, me and her, or me in the past, me tomorrow, me in the world. These thoughts may arise. What matters is how you are with them when they arise, what you do when they arise. When you engage in the thought and the feeling, meaning when you feed it, when you entertain it, when you are interested in it, when you want to go more into the story, go more into the thought. In a way, it's like that metaphor of walking. You're walking again into that, along the same path in the forest, and you're deepening the groove of ignorance, the groove of separation. The impression of separation is getting more and more of an imprint. And Judging yourself is one of those things, judging yourself or judging others. In time, the teaching will become more and more available to you. In other words, whenever the separate self arises as an I thought or as a me feeling, as a story, you will find your interest in truth arises simultaneously. That, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is that? That's just some event is arising. And it's going to take me down into deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, deeper and deeper into the story, deeper and deeper into the feelings. And so you don't walk deeper into the mud. You can see it for what it is. And you say, no, I will remain still. I am remaining still. I am not interested in going further in that direction. And I'm interested in just being and noticing being and awakening to the self that is, to the reality of my experience. So I turn my attention to that, to the transparency of being, the reality that perceives right now, the invisible self that is non-phenomenal and yet absolutely undeniable, the reality of awareness. So these choices are available to you whenever a situation arises for you where you're being pulled into the separate self, you're being pulled into ignorance, you're being pulled into, oh, me, and tomorrow what's going to happen to me, what will happen to me tomorrow, my money, my fortune, my love, my house, my job. Why did he, why did she, why did I? You realize that that's the wheel of samsara spinning. And that's the me, that's the separate self. There is no separate self outside of that spinning, the spinning of thoughts and the me feeling. That's what we call the separate self. The me impression, the sense of separation. So you don't maintain the sense of separation, you recognize it. You recognize that it's about the world, body, mind. It's about him or her. It's about objects. It's about experiences. Oh, do I have this experience? You recollect some experience and you want it again. That's a separate self. This sort of arising is a separate self. Because Brahman is at peace as is. Brahman is not an arising. Whatever arises is a separate self. Except when the arising is a happy arising, a joyful arising, an arising that arises through the heart and not through the mind. You may have an arising where you want to invite friends over to have a cup of tea or go to the theater or go for a walk. Play an instrument or listen to some music. So the images that rise to you have to be quite watchful. What do they refer to? They refer to another, me and the other. Judgments about others. Mockery of others, which is nothing else but polishing my personal image. It's all false. It's all false. Indirectly, we're trying to prop ourselves up. We're trying to prop my image up. That I'm good. I am better. We can see that. We can see all of that if we're interested. Otherwise, it's just running the show. And we get deeper and deeper in the mud. So we are interested. We're interested in the simplicity, in the purity, in the truth, in the wholeness of being. We're interested in the peace and the love, in our true nature. We're interested in what I am, the universal being, universal self. That's what we're interested in knowing. It's not a personal quest. It's not a personal achievement. It's love for truth that's flowing through us, that's expressing itself through us. That's all. And it's very beautiful. It's not about attainment, attaining.
And yet when the arising comes, we don't push it away either. It's just...
Well, we can say, no, I'm not going to go in that direction. I wouldn't say it's pushing it away, but you could say, no, I'm not going to follow these thoughts. I'm not interested. You can't pushing away. When something arises, you cannot make it non-arise. It's already arisen.
Yes.
But you don't need to go the next step. And that's where you have a choice. You say, we have no choice, we have no choice. I don't, again, for everybody here, I don't say we have no choice. I always like to clarify that there is no choice as a separate self. But separate self is Santa Claus. What sort of choice Santa Claus has is a product of our imagination. It's a figment of our imagination. I have 100% choice as consciousness. So I choose, no, I will not follow this conversation about, oh, how stupid he was, and, yeah, he did this, and he did that, and she did this, and no, that doesn't interest me. I say no to that, Okay, I may be around people who want to have this conversation. After a while, I'm going to leave.
Okay, yes, there's that discrimination.
Yeah, absolutely. Discrimination is very, very important. Viveka is, the discrimination is crucial for your awakening.
And it's even, I guess there was a question about that. So even in the company, there's discrimination. And if someone wants to carry on in that, then I don't need to stay for that either.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. No.
It's just
what for? I mean,
apparently it looks like it's somebody outside of me, but really in reality it's all an inner conversation. So yeah,
it's all an inner conversation, but there are some inner conversations you're not interested in.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. That helps.
You don't have to be polite and maintain yourself in a situation of ignorance and unhappiness. Okay, Zoe.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Zoe. Ananda, hello, Ananda. You write, does the suffering of others become transparent in a way similar to how our own distresses have become transparent? Yes, the suffering of others and our own are one, Ananda. It's one suffering, one distress. And so the suffering of others become transparent in that you see the emptiness of it, but at the same time, you recognize that although it is empty, although it is illusion, there is a belief going on that I am this person, I am this body-mind. And if it's possible, I don't know. Sometimes it is possible to share with, in some very rare cases, I would say, very, very rare cases, you can share your understanding, or you just sort of you experience it in your vastness, but you don't suffer as a result of that. You simply experience it energetically as it's flowing through. Continuing to read what you wrote, you write, life energy expresses through our heart in a sort of pure way. That is true when it is true, but it's not true when it's not so. That is true that life energy expresses itself through our heart when the mind has dissolved in the heart, or when the mind drops into the heart. Yes, that's true. So we aren't really subject to suffering along with.
You addressed that, a little bit already.
Right. We are not subject to suffering once the mind has dropped in the heart, and we are settled at the heart level. Then we are aware of the energetics, but there isn't suffering.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about this. I'm not sure if you can hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you okay.
Oh.
Yes.
You talked about this with Zoe. That was a beautiful conversation. And this were just
Yes.
sort of similar thoughts. And
okay.
But sometimes, certainly with the news, we see that we're like, sociologists are all coming out and saying, you know what, we've been really looking at the people who are in the power positions, and they're like, they're not in a good psychology, part of the spectrum of psychological profile, you might say.
That's been going on for the past 20,000 years.
Yeah, but it seems that's true. Maybe it just seems worse at the moment. I don't know.
Attila the Hun was not a very friendly guy.
No, that's right. They've been doing that all along. So that seems like such an out of whack in terms of this dream. Like you say, it becomes a happier dream. You can affect the dream around you, but yet there's a dream scape, which the newspaper comes and it has more headlines on this, like this, and you even feel it in people. Maybe when you go shopping and you feel that people are tense because of what the greater thing.
In ignorance, we are subject to personal thought and to let's say social thought, or
yes.
It's not just the personal thought. There is also the us thought, not just the me thought. There is the us thought. There is the them thoughts. It's all sort of connected. The me thought, the us thought, the them thought, the good, that's good, them bad, whatever. So in ignorance, we are not just subject to the I thought. We're also subject to the us and them thought. It's very, very similar.
Yeah. So okay, so it's very similar, but then how is there any subtle difference in how you process that? Because you can see an I thought, and it's kind of obvious. It's like,
yes.
Now brain scientists are saying, we see that almost all thought is me related, and that's why
right
the distress.
The us thought and the him or her or them thought, if you distill it, it's I thought. It's still I. So it's I that has like sort of I the family, or I the tribe, or I the group. It's still the I thought that is, it's them or us.
Yeah. They
But
is still the I thought
yes,
projected.
yes, it's the I thought. I, like for example, the mob.
Yeah, right.
The Italian mob. He's a friend of mine, like in Italian. Hey, this is a friend of mine, friend of mine, friend of ours. Yeah.
Treat him right,
Yeah, a friend of mine, Tony. What is a friend of mine? So it's the same process. It's the same process. You see within yourself this objectification. You're objectifying consciousness. You're objectifying something. You're objectifying somebody. The objectification is as if you have separated the subject, meaning I, from whatever we refer to as an object, the other, or the world, or another I. So the objectification and separation, the subject-object separation, is in the objectification. No matter if you're objectifying an oak tree, or if you're objectifying yourself, or you're objectifying them, the politicians, the good guys, the bad guys. It's the same process you can perceive within yourself. It's a process where you are taking a personal stand. So in other words, at that moment, you are stepping knee deep into ignorance. You are wearing the wrong boots.
Well, it seems like the extreme reach of wisdom would be, which is almost incomprehensible, like the Auschwitz kind of situation, or just a war in your own neighborhood. If war comes to your neighborhood and you have to decide, do I pick up a gun, do I run?
Well,
when it's that bad.
It's a different thing. It's a different thing to act out of wisdom and clarity, or to act out of tribalism and identification. You can perceive somebody who is a Christian, Muslim, Jew, white, yellow, black, whatever, baby, male, female, who is in distress or in suffering, and it's available for you to do something, and it arises for you to do something, you do it. It's very different from acting out of, the bad guy and the good guy. Now, in political situation or in the world situation, you are where you are, and it's available to you what is available to you within your limitations and within your conditions. Of course, you have your interest. Now, your interest is very important to examine. If your interest is arising out of the mind, or if your interest is arising out of a deeper place, that you can only know for yourself. And you have to be very stoic, very pure and true with yourself. Because we are polluted. There is a pollution within us of having some ideas about ourselves, images about ourselves, that we do not see, that we have to have a really strong interest and passion in them to see them, to really see them within ourselves, because nobody can see them for you. You have to see your personal images of good guy, bad guy, better guy, worse guy, blah, 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 whatever it is. I don't know. And whether that's operating. Because if that's operating, even a holy image is operating, it's still pollution.
So it's like, I'm not usually Buddhist, but but the feeling of emptiness is something in this. It's just like that. It's like there's no way that the being established in the self can fully manifest without, like, I forget what word you just used, but it's almost like a total renunciation of involvement on one level, and that engagement with my own conditioning.
I don't know. I mean, in my experience, I was very engaged, in political situations during the Vietnam era in the late 60s. I was very active, and then later on with the Palestinian issue, I was very active. I was active in family and work and world, and there isn't a formula about it, because you are where you are, and you are experiencing what you're experiencing, and what's available to you is you don't know. But what I'm saying is that it is possible for the clarity of being, for the wisdom of being to be available to you. I'm not saying that it is always available to you, but it is possible for the peace of being, for the deep understanding of our wholeness and universality to be available to you. So I encourage interest in that, the interest in awakening to our wholeness, in awakening to the truth. This does not mean not acting. You may find yourself called to act, and you act, but like, you have to also turn your attention to whether there is peace within. And that has always been my interest, to find the peace within. The peace, not a partial peace, not a peace because of the situation, that situation, but a peace that transcends all situations. And although I was in all sorts of situations where I was very active, and I still felt this aspect within me that was not at peace, that then I was always looking and trying to understand and come to the core of that. And so that's in a way what I'm speaking about, but I'm not advocating for you to suppress yourself or in any other way, but to contemplate, deeply contemplate what is the reality of your being, and to come to that reality, to come to what is absolute, and not the relative.
Yeah. So
the path may take you through the relative, I don't know, but it would be great if you come directly to the absolute. In a way, I guess that's what I talk about.
Yeah. There's any number of ways that life can exert itself, and you're just saying, you'll learn a little bit as you learn as you go, or you can go directly, regardless of what that is.
In a way, one could say that this teaching is to save you a lot of time.
Yeah.
To save you the spinning,
Yeah. Okay. Well, beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, Ananda.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ananda. Yes. Okay. So if given the time, I'm going to turn my attention to a couple of questions that have been that were sent to me. One is from Anne. Hello, Anne. You say, hi, Magdi.
Hi, Magdi.
Hello, Anne. I had a glimpse tonight that I'm not an entity living in this body. Yes, that's very beautiful. You are not an entity living in this body, Anne. You are the aware presence, aware presence, and the body appears to you as perceptions, sensations, and thoughts. So you say, I had a glimpse tonight that I'm not an entity living in this body, and that no one is looking through the eyes. I wouldn't say that. I would rather say that consciousness is looking through the eyes. I would rather say that. If I'm going to use this language about looking through the eyes, I wouldn't say no one is looking through the eyes, because somehow it feels like there's some sort of feeling of nihilism in saying there is no one. there is no one. There is no separate self. Yes, there is no separate one. But universal consciousness is perceiving through all eyes and is perceiving all minds. That's how I would say it. If I'm speaking in that, using that lingo of looking through the eyes.
Can I just say that,
Yes.
that there was a glimpse of something, and it was mainly to do with the vision, because I'm a very visual person.
Yes.
And I do associate looking through the eyes as being a body,
Yes.
being in the body. So it was.
I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like.
Right. The absence of a separate self. Sort
yeah,
of seeing without a separate self.
Yeah, it was not like two eyes seeing.
Yes. Yes.
But it was just, I could be looking from anywhere.
Yes.
Almost.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 I'm going to continue with reading. You say, like a very brief total shift in perspective. Yes. This is insights happen like that. They're very brief, but they're very deep in their reach. If there is enough time, could you say anything about that, please? Best wishes and gratitude to you and Tara. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Anne. Yeah. The more we are living, loving the truth and contemplating the truth, the more magic will happen in our life, the more insights and shifts and glimpses and they're all deeply significant. They may not seem to be significant. Some of them may seem to be significant. Some of them may not. But there is a shifting. It's an internal shift that is going on. Some of it is visible, like the glimpses, but most of it is not visible. It's like boiling water. All the water is boiling, but only some bubbles are seen on the surface. The entire body of water is at that temperature, but you're only perceiving 500-600 bubbles on top. But in fact, the whole thing is transformed. You see, just a little analogy.
It's a good one.
Yeah, you're right. So, and it's really important to trust. Trust the path. In fact, these insights and the shifts that happen, that you notice after the fact, they sort of confirm that you are moving in the right direction. Get more and more peace in your life, more and more glimpses, and more happiness. And so that's the proof is in the pudding. Is that? So you will have more proof of the pudding. The pudding will give you more proof as you are contemplating the self.
The pudding's getting sweeter.
Yes. Watch, I like sweets, so.
So do I. Terrible.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have to say about this, Anne. So it's good. Yeah. Good. Okay.
That's lovely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. Okay, a question from Bill. Dear Magdi, I am having some core concerns about my relationship with my girlfriend. Okay, core concerns. Okay. On one level, we are very good together and we never fight. That's good. That's good. We get along harmoniously. That's good. However, she has no real interest in spirituality. She never wants to meditate, go to satsangs, never read spiritual books. Nothing. She wants to have fun, go out, entertainment, travel. She's very much into health, appearance, but all of her interests are looking out to the world. She doesn't ever turn to contemplation or silence. We cannot discuss spiritual topics. She doesn't love what I love. So I am looking at this. What can you say that would help me? I would say that you still have a little way to go. What is unfolding for you right now is one of the stepping stones along your path. It is meant for you to experience this relationship the way it is unfolding now. This does not mean that it is meant for you to stay in this relationship, neither to leave it. I don't know yet. Or actually, I don't know, period. This relationship is stirring in you something. In a way, there is something that's keeping you in it, whatever it is, common interest, something you share, something that's drawing you. And that's the carrot. That's the, it's the carrot with the donkey and the carrot. That's the carrot. That's the flower that's attracting the bee. So there is something that's keeping you in the relationship, that's attracting you to the relationship, that brought you to the relationship. And there is something in the relationship for you to contemplate, which is what you are bringing in your question. You can't make somebody love the truth. It has to come from within them. But it's possible to get, it's as if love for truth can be contagious. It's possible for your girlfriend to catch that interest, to be infected or to be affected, let's say, by your interest, by your love for truth. How you live it, not so much you're philosophizing about it, because that's not really love for truth. It has to be genuine, meaning you have to be living it. It has to ripen and deepen. And it is meant for your girlfriend to be experiencing you as you are, in spite of her interest in the world and partying and whatever, her body, her health, and whatever. she's also meant to be experiencing you who has an interest in truth and a love for truth. So in a way, I don't have much to say about it. It's all is well. Now, if the relationship somehow becomes an impediment, becomes an obstacle for you to continue your inquiry, continue your contemplation, and if you feel that it is that way, and if after having looked at how to resolve that while in the relationship, somehow you explore various options, and at the same time you're contemplating whether you are fooling yourself. Maybe she is not an obstacle for you. Maybe you are making her into an obstacle, while in fact the obstacle may be your very self, something within yourself that you are not seeing. I don't know. You have to find out. But if after inquiring into the various ways in which you can resolve that, and you still find that it's impossible, that you cannot continue your contemplation, you cannot move forward in your relationship, in your contemplation of truth within the relationship, then you will find that the thoughts about ending the relationship will start to arise for you, and they will become more and more frequent, and may lead you to leave the relationship. I don't know. I'm just speaking about the possibilities. Interesting. I was in a relationship like that for many years. And somehow there was, I think, okay, yes. And somehow my partner something affected her, and she started to open up. But still, at some point, my path took me away from the relationship and away from the marriage, and so I don't think that you're. We all love the truth. I mean, so in one way or the other, you say she doesn't love what I love. No. You know, everybody loves the truth. Maybe it's suppressed. I would take a closer look at that. Maybe you are separating yourself from her. Maybe there is a way where you can find a common ground between what she likes to do and your love for truth. Maybe if you take a step towards her, she'll take a step towards you. I don't know. You have to explore that. And always be sincere and honest with her. If these concerns that you're sharing here, you can also share them with her in a way that is not accusing, not blaming, you know. Just a conversation about what's on your mind. It may not be the whole conversation. You can have conversation in bits and pieces to see, Because if she loves you, then she's open to listening to you and hearing and maybe making some steps towards you. But you also have to take some steps towards her. Anyways, good luck with that. Relationships are the greatest teachers. You see stuff within yourself that you're so used to it, you don't see it. You know, your partner is like a mirror for you. Okay, well, I have to go for a meeting, so thank you all for your company, your love, and your love for truth, and your friendship. Very lovely to be with you as usual. Anne and Esther, Holly, Gabby, hello Maria, Ananda, Paul, and Zoe. Love you all. See you soon.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Magdi.
Thank you, Magdi.
Okay. Namaste.
Namaste.